Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name's Andrew Dempsey and today we're going to be talking about how to edit photos, quick and easy, simple way to use your mobile phone to boost your photos for Instagram or Facebook or whatever you want to use them for. So let's do it. All right, so the idea I had today was I fully charged my one wheel. Going to be taking the camera I'm recording on, which is the Canon M50, but honestly, you look at my Instagram and 95 or more is just photos taken on my mobile phone, which is the iPhone XS. But yeah, I'm not saying my photos are amazing or anything, but I've just think that I've found a way to boost the photos to bring out just a bit more life in the photos. So yeah, I was just gonna go for a ride and take some photos and then come back and then we'll go through the editing process, and hopefully, you know, if you guys learned something and like the video, then feel free to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. That'd be very helpful, but just need to figure out where we're gonna ride. So I've printed out a list of places to take the one wheel and the camera and just go take some shots. So I was kind of thinking maybe I'm thinking maybe this place.
Stay with me, if only for a moment, only for a while. I regret letting you go, and you were mine. I thought I'd be fine, but now my heart don't feel right, and this pain doesn't go away. If I could turn back time, I would've never let you down, 'cause now I'm waiting for you to say, call me back. I haven't heard from you in so long, I'm starting to forget what you sound like. 'Cause now that it's over, I'm by myself. Yeah. I thought I'd be fine, but no more. My heart don't feel right. Doesn't go away. If I could turn back time, I would've never let you down. 'Cause now I'm waiting for you to say,
All right, so we're back. Obviously technically step one is taking the photos, but step one, you wanna make sure you've got Lightroom and PS Express downloaded on your phone. And next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna jump into Lightroom and we're gonna start editing the photos. So there's gonna be a few things that I brush over and go through quite quickly, but that's just mainly because it's very specific to each photo. So when it comes to light and stuff, so you know, the brightness of the photo, the contrast and all that stuff. So that's all everyone's different, so whatever you fancy. But the one tip that I will say is there's going to be many changes made to the photo as you progress through the editing process. So don't make major adjustments, sort of get something to where you think, I like how that looks, you know, and then dial it back a little bit, because as you progress through the editing process, you're going to be throwing more and more effects on top of the photo, and eventually if you just blow everything way out of proportion, it's gonna completely mess up your photo. So get it to where you think it looks good, and then just dial it back that little bit, because there's gonna be things thrown on top of it. So yeah, the next step is let's get into the editing side of it. All right, so first thing we want to do is open Lightroom. So I'll put that up on the screen. Okay, so we'll open Lightroom, and we've got our photo there. I've already got that photo in my library, but if you wanted to upload a photo from your camera roll, you just click on that button on the bottom right corner, and you'll be able to go into your camera roll and download the footage or the photo to the Lightroom app, and then we'll click on the photo. So first thing we're going to go into is light. I'm going to slide the exposure just up and down to see which way I want to go with it. I kind of think I might darken this to about negative 0.2, and then I'm going to up the contrast to about +10. I'm going to drop the highlights down to about -15. I'm going to increase the shadows to about +10, and I'm going to bring the whites up to about +10 as well, and that's just to bring out the brightness and the reflection of the water there. Just, I think it looks a bit better. And I'm going to lower the blacks to about -10 as well. So that just crushes the blacks a little bit and brings out a bit more quality in the shadows, so it doesn't look so grey. All right, so that's pretty much it for light. So like I was saying, it's very specific to each photo. You know, each photo is going to be different, and just get it to where it looks quite nice. Like I said earlier, don't go too far with each adjustment, because we've got further edits to do on top of the photo. So yeah, so that's light. Okay, so next we go to color. So click on color, and we're going to play with the temperature of the photo. So you can either take it to a cooler blue or a warmer sort of orangey color. So I might just take it slightly up to +5. Play with the tint if you like. I think the colors in this don't really need any adjustments to the tint, so we'll leave that as it is. I'm going to up the vibrance but lower the saturation. Vibrance to +15 and the saturation to around -10. So that's the basics of color, but we're going to come back to mix. We're not going to play with that just yet, so leave that how it is. The next thing we're going to click on is effects. Once again, you can sort of slide it all the way and just see which way you want to lean towards. So because there's quite a lot of detail in this photo, I'm gonna keep the texture quite low, but about +10, and I'm going to bring the clarity right up to about +40. So you can see that really brings out all the details and the contrast and everything in that photo. So I'm going to play with the dehaze. So obviously if you go one way, it's quite washed out, and the other way it's too dark, too contrasty. So I'm just going to go about +5 on the dehaze. Then you've got vignette. So vignettes obviously either darkens or lightens the corners, but I generally like to just do a slight vignette towards the darker corners, just to bring a bit more focus to the center of the photo of what you want people to focus on. So I'm going to leave that there, and then you can adjust the midpoint for the roundness of that vignette effect, but you can play with that and see what you prefer, but I'll just leave that as it is. Then you've got grain. You can add a grainy look to your photo if that's what you're into, or depending on the type of photo, just bring out a bit of grunginess in it, but which I don't mind, but not so much for a landscape photo, so I will leave that there. Next in line we have detail, so click on detail. You can bring the sharpening right up, which you don't want to go too far with that. I'm going to leave the sharpening at about 50, and then you've got radius. You've got radius, so radius is basically the size of each pixel that you're sharpening, so you can either increase the size of the pixel that you want to sharpen or decrease it. So because this is a landscape photo with a lot of fine detail at a distance, I can probably leave the radius all the way down to 0.5 just to bring out the sharpness in the fine detail of the photo. So, and then you can bring up the detail in that sharpness so that it makes it even sharper again. But I'm going to leave that quite low, maybe about 30. Then you've got masking. I don't generally play with the masking too much. I think that's kind of like it smoothens out the sharpening of those pixels. But this photo is pretty good quality now, so we don't really need to do that. So this is pretty important, this part, the noise reduction. So this is where you can really ramp up your noise reduction, and it almost, if you put too much on it, almost looks fake. You know, you don't want to make the photo look fake, but you want to remove any of that noise to increase the quality of your photo. So if we go all the way up, if I zoom in, let's zoom into this log and you can have a look at that detail. If you go all the way down, you can sort of see it's the fine detail and stuff. You can see everything in that detail. But if you go all the way up, it really smoothens out that detail, and it almost looks a little bit too fake. So, but I like to bring the noise reduction up to about 30. We'll zoom back out. Leave the detail and the contrast where it is. Color noise reduction, that's just focusing on the colors in the photo and reducing the noise, any sort of grainy look in the colors. So I'll do the same with that. I'll bring it up to about 30, and I'll leave the detail and smoothness where it is. So that's detail. Next we'll click on optics. I'm not going to get right into the description of what each of these things do, but just turn chromatic aberration on and enable lens correction. So lens correction will basically, if you've taken the photo with a GoPro or something and it's got that wide angle look, the lens correction will try and flatten out that image to make it look less distorted. So you can see when I clicked it on in this photo, it didn't really make any changes, but that's just because of the type of camera I was using. So then we'll leave that there. Next you've got geometry, and you can sort of distort the photo if you wanted to change it in any sort of way like that. So sometimes what I like to do is I just like to go -5 on the distortion to bring out the center of the photo closer to view, so it kind of almost brings that focus to the center of the photo even more. So I'll leave that at -5. And then, so from here we're going to go back to color, to the mix. So slide back across, go into color, and then click on mix. So this is a really important part of editing your photo because you can adjust all the colors. So HSL is hue, saturation, and luminance. So hue, you're going to change the color of that focused color, and then you can in saturation increase how much color is in that chosen color, and then the luminance is how bright that color is going to be. So I generally just start from the left and work from red all the way across to the pinks, and just adjust the hue just to see what it's actually changing in the photo. And you can see with the red, it's not really changing too much noticeably, so I'm just going to leave that central. Might drop the saturation and just up the luminance a little bit. So generally if there's a color in the photo that isn't really prominent, I just like to drop the saturation and up the luminance so it brings out the brightness without too much color interfering with the more dominant colors. So next we'll go to orange and we'll have a look at what that's adjusting. So you can see the reeds and stuff in the background. If you slide all the way to this side, it pretty much makes them green and it blends in with everything else, which I don't really like the look of that. And if we go too far the other way, it almost looks like a fake sort of color in the background there. But I like that maroony sort of red. So I'm going to leave it about there, and then we can adjust the saturation to how much color we want. I'm going to bring out a little bit more color in it just to add a bit of depth and a bit of color in that photo. I might drop that saturation a little bit. And then you've got luminance, so you can see that really either darkens it or brightens it up. So I might just brighten it up slightly to about +10. And we'll go to yellow. We'll see what this adjusts. So you can see that's adjusting a lot of the grass and the green colors. I might lean more towards the right-hand side, the brighter green. I'm going to drop the saturation slightly to about -20. Play with the luminance. And up the luminance to about +15. All right, now so we'll click on green, we'll see what this is adjusting. And that's further sort of adjusting those greens and the grass and stuff. So I might lean a bit more towards the brighter green. Up the saturation a little bit and up the luminance slightly. We'll click on that aqua color. We'll see what this is adjusting. That's not really adjusting too much in this photo in particular, so I might lean more towards the blue. I'll drop saturation. Once again, if it's not a very prominent color in the photo, I like to drop saturation and up the luminance a little bit. So we'll just leave that there, and then we'll go to the blue. So this is mainly affecting the color in the reflection of the water, so the reflection of the sky. So I kind of like, I want to bring out that nice light blue. So I'll drop it down to about there, and then I'll sort of up the saturation slightly. You can see if you play with the luminance, if you go too bright, it just washes out that color. So I might just leave that at 0. So now we'll click on the purple, see what that's adjusting. You can see it's sort of adjusting some of the colors in the front there in the water as well. So might lean more towards that maroony sort of color just to match those colors in the background. Up saturation slightly, up the luminance slightly. Now we'll go to the last one, pink. We'll have a look at what this is adjusting. It doesn't really seem to be too dominant, so I'm going to leave that central, drop saturation, up the luminance. And we'll click done. So as you can see already, that looks so much better than it did originally. So if you hold on the photo itself, it will show you a preview of the original photo. So hold my finger and you can see that's what we started with. And if I let it go, then that's what we've now got. So I'm really happy with that. I think the only thing I need to add is the sky in the background is just, there's not much going on with it. It's quite boring. So what I want to do is I want to try and add a little bit of warmth to the sky, and I also want to put like a sun peeking out through those trees just to add a bit of life to the sky. So what I'm going to do is slide all the way across and click on selective. So this selective is where you can choose a radial, linear, or a brush gradient. So obviously radial is like a circle, so, and the red section is what it's going to be adjusting. So, and then you can also invert it, so it only adjusts what's on the outside of that. But I don't want to use that one. And then you've got linear, and that's basically a line. You can adjust it to feather it, place that anywhere you want. And once again, the red section is what it's going to be affecting. So you can see we can do all sorts of things with this. So, but I don't want to use that one either. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the brush. So the brush is basically wherever you paint on, it's going to put that red shading, and that's the area it's going to adjust. So I only want to adjust the sky, so I'm going to choose brush, and then I'm going to adjust the size of it, so about there, and then we're just going to basically just brush over that sky area with trying not to go over the trees or anything else in that photo too much, because we don't want to affect the other things in the photo. So I'll just brush it like that, and then I might just clean up the edges. By going, so you click on the erase button and that will get rid of what you've chosen. So I might just run my finger on the eraser over that edge of the trees just to make sure I'm not going to be affecting too much of the rest of the photo. So now with that selected, we can click on all the options down the bottom here, and what we adjust is only going to affect that area that's been painted in red. So you can see if I up the exposure, it brightens it or darkens it. So I don't want to adjust too much. All I want to do is just add a little bit of warmth to that sky. So temperature, and if we just, actually if I might actually go cooler, because it brings out that little bit of natural blue in the sky. So if I zoom in, yeah, I might go towards the cooler side of it just to bring out a little bit of colour in the sky. So I'll hit the tick down the bottom, have a look at the whole photo. So that's good, I like that. So next thing we want to do is add a sun flare just peeking out the top of those trees, just to give it that little bit of, extra something. So what I'm going to do is click this button at the top here to export it. So export to camera roll. Okay, so you can see the photo was successfully exported. So that's now in my camera roll. So what we want to do is we want to go out of Lightroom and we want to go into PS Express. So open PS Express. So once you're in PS Express, you want to click on Mix. So choose your photo, and that will come up as a layer. So in this Mix section of PS Express is where you can put layers on top of
layers. So that's our main photo. So what we want to do is get a sun flare or something like that we can use to be peeking out through those trees in the background. So what we need to do is, well, what I do, and the program that I use is a program called Envato Elements. And for me, Envato Elements is just where I get just anything to do with photography, videography, just any assets that you want to use. Like it's a subscription base, but it's not that expensive. If you're into this sort of stuff, it's 100% worth paying that subscription, because anything you use is, you're not going to get copyright strikes or anything like that for using this if you're paying the subscription. So what I did is I searched up sun flare, went into the graphics, and you can see there's just choices after choices. There's thousands of things you can choose from on anything that you want to search up. So for this, I'm going to choose this one here. I've got some nice sun flares. I'm going to hit download. Download it as just a test project, whatever. Hit download, and that will download to your files. And then once that's downloaded, you can arrow up the top right, and it comes through with a zip. So once you click it, it will extract those files, open that, and you can see there we go. So the one I want to use is this one here, Lens Flare 1. Click the button down the bottom left and hit save image. So that's now going to be saved into my camera roll. So go done, go back into PS Express, and then you want to hit the plus just under the photo, and we want to choose that sun flare. So you'll see it comes through as another layer on top, but the background's black. We only want to see the brightness of that sun flare. So what you want to do is hit blend, and you want to scroll across to screen. So once you hit screen, you can see it gets rid of that black. So screen basically gets rid of any of the darkness in that layer and only reveals the highlights. So once we've got it there, you can then move that around to anywhere you want. So I'm going to have that just poking through the top of the trees there. I'm going to increase the size of it a little bit, which might make it quite a bit larger, and just have it coming through the trees there like that. And if you want to just remove the layers on the right there so you can see your photo better, click on that to remove the blue box around it. And there we go. I think that looks good. So we can obviously play around with it and put layer on top of layer and stuff, and do so much more with it if you wanted to. But just for explanation purpose, I'm just going to leave it like that. So I'm happy with that. And then hit the export at the top right. Export to camera roll. Your photo has been saved to your camera roll. So if I go to my camera roll and have a look, there it is there. So that's the edited version of the photo, before the sun flare, after sun flare. And if we go back into Lightroom and I hold my finger on the photo, and that's the original photo. So original photo compared to edited photo. And I think that just looks so much better, and it's so easy. Actually, another tip, so from there, so once you go back into Lightroom and you think, I really like what I've done with those edits, and you think, I don't want to go through every step of that again if I've got a similar photo and I want to put the same effects on top. So you want to hit the button up the top right, the three dots there, and then you want to click on create preset, and then you can choose all the adjustments you've made. You can choose any one or leave something out if you don't want that in there, but I'm going to choose all of them. I'm going to go preset name and name this landscape bright day. Landscape bright day, go done, hit the tick. So landscape bright day has now been added to my preset. So when you come back in and you've got another photo, you just hit the presets and you go down to user presets, and you'll see all we're going to do is find it. I've got quite a lot because I do a lot of photo editing. So there it is, landscape bright day. So any photo that you upload from this point onwards, you'll just be able to go into the presets and choose that preset and see if it looks good. If not, you can just make a new one and then save that as a preset and keep going. So it's quite fun actually. Every time you take a photo, you're excited to try the presets on it and see which one looks best. So hopefully that has, shed some light on Lightroom and PS Express and editing photos. I hope it's brought some value. So thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, hit the like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.